Good morning. That was the faculty brass quintet. You're going to see them again at the end of the program when we sing the alma mater and fight song. At least they're going to play it. Hopefully you'll sing along. My name is Steve Doblin. I serve as University Provost. On behalf of Lamar University, welcome to Fall 2013 Convocation. For those of you who've been here before, you're going to be surprised at how streamlined this ceremony is going to be, but I know you're not going to be sad. Basically, what's going to happen is that I'm going to introduce the new faculty, the new staff, and the staff in new positions this year in a group, and we'll recognize them. And then we'll have some remarks by President Evans, and then the quintet will come back. So, to start off with, I'd like all the new faculty, they're not seated in the first 5 rows as we used to do, so with all the new faculty here at Lamar University this year, please stand and receive our applause. Welcome. Please stand. Thank you. We're glad that you're here. And by the way, you should have gotten a convocation program in which we have listed the names of all the new members of our university community. With the faculty, not only did we list the names, but of course their academic title and their department and their degree and where they got their degree, except for 5. There are no perfect procedures. And I noticed last night when I was reading this that we have, I think it's 5 people whose degrees were left off. And it was not that long ago that I was a new PhD recipient, and I would have been really irritated if my degree was left off. So I am going to recognize those 5 people individually. And I'd like you to stand when I call your name. First, Jesse Garcia, visiting assistant professor in sociology, social work, and criminal justice. His degree from Texas A&M is a PhD. That's what's left off. Hendra Sue, assistant professor, sociology, social work, and criminal justice. His degree is PhD from the University of Albany. And Karen Robrook, an instructor for sociology, social work, and criminal justice, an MA from the University of Houston, Clear Lake. And I apologize for that being left off, and I promise you we don't have anything against that department. There are 3 of them. Also, Rachel Ammons, visiting assistant professor in counseling and special populations. For some reason, her MED was listed. She is has a PhD pending from Mississippi State University. And then finally, Tao Wei, an assistant professor of chemical engineering. His degree from the University of Southern California is also the PhD. And again, I apologize, and again, thank you all for joining us. Next, would all the new staff members at Lamar University please rise and receive our applause. All new staff members. Thank you. And as I told my faculty colleagues this morning, it's really the staff that run a university. And our staff at Lamar University feel a real part of the educational mission, and we really appreciate you and all the hard work you do for the university. And finally, would all our colleagues with new titles or in new positions since last convocation please rise and receive our applause. Thank you. Again, we're happy that you are all here. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the newest member of the Lamar University community, Dr. Kenneth Evans.
Well, thank you all. One introduction that we, thank you, Provost Doblin. One introduction we didn't make is the lady here on my left. So, could you give me your name?
Barbara Johnson.
Barbara Johnson, I won't sign that back at you, Barbara. Thank you for being here and performing the signing task for us today. We really appreciate it. Welcome to the beginning of a new school year. I've never done a faculty convocation before, either as a president or as a person in the audience. I've never been in an environment that's done a faculty convocation. We've done freshman convocations, and that was always an interesting experience because you had their parents with them, and the parents wouldn't leave, and students are trying to figure out a way to push them out the door, and some parents would stay for a couple weeks even, you know how that goes. So this is different for me. Before I get into my remarks, I do want to introduce this lady that's sitting here in the front, my wife Nancy. This is a partnership. She's the 180 from me on the arts and the other parts of what make a university a vibrant and a successful enterprise. So she'll be an important part of our team going forward. I guess a special welcome is in order for all our new faculty and staff, and that certainly includes me. This is obviously a new chapter in Nancy's and my life, and we're very excited about what the prospects bring. We look forward to beginning what we think is going to be a very successful tenure here. And in so doing, I think we both feel it's such a distinct honor and privilege to be a part of the Lamar community. And I must say you have embraced both of us in a very warm and receiving kind of way, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for that. I've been asked now, actually one of the news reporters asked me how many times I'd told the same joke, and since I've been here, and frankly, probably not more than once or twice. But I can tell you one question I've been asked thousands of times, and that's what's my vision for the university. And that has always fascinated me because whatever my vision is means absolutely nothing unless it's our collective vision. So as an enterprise, we'll go forward as a community and we'll succeed or we'll fail based on the power of the community. So my vision is your vision, and it's our stakeholders' vision. We have to keep them in mind as well, and that's not necessarily everybody that's in this room. But it will be a collective community engagement, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. So with that having been said, what are things that I think are important, and I've heard them through you and through our stakeholders. Well, obviously one is to continue to advance our trajectory as a top-tier institution. Why would we not want to do that? I know that sounds like a platitude, but the truth of the matter is our competitive environment is moving at light speed around us, and if we don't choose to occupy spaces that they're creating and is important for us to be with them, then we're going to fall behind. So that's clearly a part of that. But at the same time, it's really important to recognize our legacy. And whatever we do going forward, we have to leverage that legacy. So it's an interesting balance of looking toward the future and finding opportunity, while at the same time recognizing it is our brand equity. I'm a marketing guy, so forgive me for this. We are known for something, and you don't want to walk away from what you're known for because it proves to be an important part of how you cast your future. The one thing that's clearly important, and we've heard this, and you guys have talked about it, and new people will hear about it if you haven't already, is that retention and matriculation is absolutely essential to our enterprise. And there are things that have happened over the course of time as a function of hurricanes and reductions in student population and various things the university has done to try to maintain, keep its doors open, frankly, in periods of time when it was in desperate shape. But retention and matriculation is absolutely essential. It's essential for fundamentally two reasons. One is far more important in my mind than the other. The most important reason is the stewardship. It's a relationship we have with the student. We imply a contract with that person when we recruit them to campus, and we admit them that we think they're going to succeed. And then we need to do everything possible to make that happen. If there are reasons to question whether or not that's likely to occur for that student, then we probably shouldn't have been recruiting them to begin with. So it's a stewardship commitment. Fundamentally, that's the most important reason to address retention and matriculation. There are issues about metrics and funding formulas and all the other things that are part of the state system, and trust me, they're important to us from a funding model standpoint, but they're not nearly as important as the ethical issue. It's that commitment to that student, their parents, their grandparents, for many of them, they're first-generation students, that we think they can succeed and that we have a way to make them succeed. So we'll be dealing with retention and matriculation, and we have some good news on that front, I might add, which I will share with you in just a second. As we vision the future, we obviously want to enhance the quality of the university and focus on some core areas of excellence that we think are opportunities for us to advance our relationship with key stakeholders. So in order to do that, to identify those core areas of opportunity, Provost Doblin and I have reached out to every one of the departments that are represented here today and have asked for time to visit with you all. It's my commitment, our commitment, as I said at the outset, to birth a vision from our collective community, and it starts with an opportunity to talk with you. So we'll do that. And what I want to know is where you see your core areas of strength and where you see your core areas of opportunity. I was a faculty member. I am a faculty member. I am a tenured member of the College of Business. So I get the issues of not having enough resources and what it means to try to get a job done in a limited resource domain. But the reality is that is what characterizes our institutional environment today in higher ed. But we make of this what we will, and we will find ways to advance ourselves and make this a more promising institution every day because we look for opportunity and we leverage it. So I want to hear from you where your vision is, where you want to take the institution. I'm interested in where you think there's promise. So I look forward to that opportunity to visit with you to hear that. Well, you're asking the new guy on campus, he's been here 49 days, to give you a campus update. So trust me, this is dangerous stuff we're wading into now, so I'm going to do my best. I was in Alpine, Texas last week. Anybody been to Alpine, Texas before? There you go. That's where the regents met, and I got an opportunity to hear an update from them as to how we have fared with the 83rd legislative session, and so here you go. The good news, and I attribute this to the leadership, Jimmy Simmons and his team that he had in place all the many years that he was provided tremendous leadership for this institution, but he also had people at his right and left hand with him throughout that time, and many of them are sitting in this room, who made a significant difference in making this institution what it is today. So it's that team that accomplished what I'm about ready to articulate. The good news is because we had growth in credit hours over the past few years, we've received increased funding. There'll be $3 million per year in our biennial increase in the general revenue from Senate Bill 1. And that helps backfill some of the challenges that we've had to confront and reallocations. I always love that term. We don't refer to it as budget cuts in higher ed. We refer to it as reallocations. I've often thought, people get a grip, but nonetheless. We lost the hold harmless funds, but fared much better than the previous budget. The bad news, and it was indeed disappointing, because we had a project that was really queued up, and I thought was an important addition to the institution. There were no TRBs funded in this session, although our particular project was supported both in the House and the Senate. It went back into a special committee and was rejected, as were all the TRBs. We were not selected for this marvelous gift. But as a result, there will be no new biology building, and that's truly unfortunate. The Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board lost authority, key word here is lost authority, to eliminate so-called low-producing programs. That is good news. The authority shifted to state governing boards, and this action is no doubt welcomed across the state. It's interesting when you look at programs like history, I believe was the program that was an issue this last time. There might have been a few others, but unless you totally understand the architecture of how higher ed operates, it's really difficult for an outside agency to be making these decisions. We have a huge amount of student credit hours that are delivered in the general education architecture that are provided by programs like history and English and political science, and I could go on. And the marginal cost of providing a major is really pretty small. So when you look at relatively small programs, you have to think of it in the context of what you're doing and the total architecture of the delivery system. But when you're on the outside looking in, you don't totally appreciate that. And I think it's now residing, the decision authority is residing in the right place. And I'm very respectful of how that decision finally turned out. I want to thank our state legislative delegation for their hard work and support. Senator Tommy Williams and Representatives Joe Deschantel and Alan Ritter, special thanks to them. And many other friends and supporters stepped up. I must say, I've got to know the Texas State University system folks very well over the past few days, 49 days and a few before that. And I got to tell you, we have a really, really excellent group of people working on our behalf. The chancellor is in particular, Chancellor McCall, Brian McCall, has been particularly helpful. I give them a great deal of credit in the series that took place in moving the authority for small programs out of the decision authority that it previously resided in. Let's turn to enrollment for just a second. This fall, in terms of test scores, now, Kevin, I'm going to hold you accountable for this. So. This fall, in terms of test scores, class ranks, and scholarships, Lamar welcomes perhaps the finest freshman class in its history. Regular admission numbers are steady, and the I Will admission standards raise the bar, as well as the overall quality of our provisionally admitted students. Almost 100 new Mirabou scholars will be joining 45 continuing scholars this fall. In addition, hundreds of new and continuing students on Legends, Engineering Excellence, and other academic scholarships will strengthen our student population. And we're going to welcome the largest number of honors students in the program in its 50-year history, over 200 if I'm not mistaken. Well, many of you are academics in this audience, and if you are, I've often referred to academics among other qualities, and I am one of them, and I know that, and I review for journals, so I know my role when I do it. I'm a trained cynic. My job is to find what's wrong with this article. So as I say this, recognize that I live in your space. So your first reaction when you hear those numbers might be, how did they do that? What's it costing us? Where's the downside on this? If I'm not hearing that, I know you're resounding out there. Somewhere it's resonating. Well, you might presume the predictable consequence of more restrictive admissions would be what? A decline in fall enrollment. However, we're projecting we might be only off a percentile in total enrollment. I got to tell you that it is the fact that we are admitting one of our best classes, but the fact that they did it the way they did it and achieved the numbers that we've achieved is categorically phenomenal. And for that, I give you a great round of applause. We will admit 22 valedictorians. Almost 40% of the entering freshman class, you realize I'm a marketing guy, so I round up a tad bit. Almost 40% of the entering freshman class are in their top 20. Now, mind you, it wasn't like 25%. I didn't round it to 40%. So about 40% of the entering class are in their top 25% of their high school class. Hear that again? 40% of our entering class are in their top 25% of their high school class. Congratulations again to Kevin and Sherry Benoit for the great job they did, and all of our enrollment people and admissions people. Job well done. So if you're modelers, any modelers out in this group, mathematical modelers, you'll recognize that this all plays out in terms of a long-term impact on the funding formula, because now you end up with a better group of students who have a higher possibility of retention, much greater likelihood of a shorter duration toward graduation, and that all plays out in the metrics, and it ends up benefiting the institution in a very dramatic way. Not to mention, it directly benefits our commitment to stewarding our relationship with our students and meeting the promise that we reach out to them and offer. Lamar's Undergraduate Advising Center is open, and I hope you've taken an opportunity to visit it. There's about 30 members of that team, roughly. I had an opportunity to visit the center a few days ago, and I got to tell you, what a great group of people. A tremendous passion for our students. It's a marvelous new facility. I really encourage you to go visit them. But, you know, their job is, as you might imagine, it's to be that mother or father that you would wish you never had. You know, did you study? Did you go to class? Did you do this? Did you do that? And we need to do that if we're going to keep these students on track. So we're pleased to have them as part of our community. Let's see. As we move this bar up, and you know, you can tell from the numbers, if you know the statistics in previous entering classes of freshmen, we've moved the bar up dramatically. The average ACT is around 21 now. It had been sitting around 19. You might conclude that what happens to the groups of students that we have traditionally served. We will continue to reach out and make a commitment to serving Southeast Texas and making this an institution that can change lives. It has to be. I was a first-generation student. My parents did not go to college. So when I stumbled in those first few quarters in college, and Nancy knows it because we met as freshmen, and she knows how I was behaving. And I'm going to ask her to not share that with you. Maybe later. My parents didn't really know the right kind of questions to ask me. They didn't really know how to mentor me. You know, a first-generation student is just a different student. And we need to be able to provide access to that student. We need to be able to find a way to make that student be successful. There's no way on God's green earth that I could have predicted, based on my upbringing, and certainly my first academic year as an undergraduate student, that I'd be standing in front of you today. But it's because of people like you, faculty and staff, that it was possible for me to find my way. And we need to continue to do that for every student who is interested and hungry to seek a college education. So our commitment to that legacy, that is an important legacy. As we look at leveraging differential advantages going forward, that's a vital legacy for this institution. We also, when you look at the data, and I can provide you more information on data, we'll provide that to you at a later date. We now have more than 500 out-of-state students. We're up 184% over 4 years, and we have nearly 600 students from other nations. Speaking of other nations, I keep a globe in my office. It was actually left by Jimmy Simmons. He was carrying the grand piano out under one arm. Yes, for those of you that are new, he actually had a grand piano in the president's office, and he couldn't get the globe under the other arm, so he left it with me. But it's kind of ironic because it's very symbolic of a huge passion I have. When I was at Oklahoma, and then before that the University of Missouri, in the College of Business alone at the University of Missouri, we put 400 students abroad every year. At Lamar, we put 48 students abroad last year. Do the math. Okay, we can't do that. We can't prepare our students for the reality of what it means to be part of the global community. Even if they stay in Southeast Texas, they're influenced by the global community every day. We can't provide them the education that they need if we don't expand the opportunity for other types of international exposure. I've already made an investment in expanding the budget for that program, and we're going to look for other initiatives that will seek to expand our scope of engagement in that space. Likewise, we're going to continue to expand where opportunities present themselves, where we can be strategically advantaged, our online presence. And I know it creates some consternation among some of you in the room, and I realize that there's still remains a controversial issue. But look across the country: Stanford, Harvard, Northwestern, University of Pennsylvania, University of Florida, University of Georgia. Georgia Tech's now just offering a MOOC program for a master's degree in information systems. We are in an age where we simply have to embrace the reality of that space. The challenge is, how do we find significant differential advantages that are sustainable, that give us an opportunity to compete in that space long term? So we'll continue to explore that and find ways to make that advantageous for us. The other piece, when I'm talking degree program, when I talk about the stuff that we've been doing principally online, but there's another piece, and that's continuing education. The people we graduated on Saturday, there's a good chance that a large percentage of them will end up in a job when they retire that hasn't been invented yet. The pace of change in the global context, whether it's in education, whether it's in business, whether it's in engineering, not to mention the half-life of their education, which is becoming shortened as we speak, is part of our responsibility to provide them access to continuing education so that they can stay abreast of their field and be successful in whatever enterprise they're in, or potentially pursue an alternative career path. So if you think about it, we've got over 70,000 graduates, almost 80,000 graduates of Lamar. We have a built-in market. You could say that we could offer that community a lifetime learning contract. And it's our job to provide you an opportunity to stay abreast of your field or to access other product from Lamar. And we're committed to making you as successful as you can be, because when you're successful, we're successful, because you remember where your success came from. So as we go on, we'll think in terms of ways that we can make our graduates better at what they do or what they aspire to do. Student excellence. We have some examples of some really exceptional undergraduate students here today, and frankly, we could stand here, and I've met many of these students, so beyond the ones that we're going to talk about today, and we could go on at some length, but then you're going to want to have lunch at some point, and I can't afford to feed you. But the examples of undergraduate excellence are abundant. Our 2013 David J. Beck Fellows are with us today. One is a pre-med major, Christy Vanderhoff, who reported to us that the National Institutes of Health were amazing. There she is. And that she thrived in her laboratory work on a rare form of arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis. How close was I, Chrissy? Chrissy? How close? Oh, yeah, sure. Sure, that's what she's saying now. Chrissy actually suffers from this disease. So we're pleased that you had a great experience. Likewise, let's give her a hand. Meanwhile, Spanish major Amy Morgan just returned from a summer in Argentina. Tough gig, Amy. Where she attended seminars in both American literature and began translation of several short stories penned by a prominent Argentine author, Mempo Giardinelli. Is that close? I'm so excited. We also have with us, let's give her a hand. Let me also introduce Paul Risk, who's Lamar's first TSUS Regent Student Scholar nominee. Paul is a pre-med senior, double majoring in chemical engineering and physics. He is a Lamar ambassador, Mirabou scholar, a member of Phi Kappa Phi, and a rugby player. Actually, Paul gave Nancy and I a tour around campus when we were interviewing for the position. At that time, Paul had considerably longer hair. And his arm was in a cast, I believe from rugby, was it not? There we go. Let's give Paul a hand. Thank you all. Please be seated. Along with excellent students, they obviously don't thrive unless we have exceptional faculty, and indeed we do. Again, it becomes one of those challenges of trying to pick on just a couple for the sake of illustration, so please forgive me for doing it this way. But In its 2012 Notable Accomplishments from Awards publication, the Division of Chemical Bioengineering, Environmental and Transport Systems, CBET, of the Directorate of Engineering and National Science Foundation, can you imagine having a business card that has all that on it? Has recognized the research of Dr. Zanhu John Yo, an assistant professor in LU's Department of Chemical Engineering. His magnetic carbon nanocomposites for heavy metal removal from polluted water was the only NSF CBET research project highlighted for 2012. John, where are you? Is he here? He's working on nanocomposites as we speak. And we're better off for it, I might add. Dr. Kumar Das, Associate Professor of Mathematics, is the 2013 recipient of the Alder Award for Distinguished Teaching. One of the only 3 mathematicians in the United States selected by the Board of Governors of the Mathematical Association of America. Das will be recognized at a national meeting in Hartford, Connecticut in August. Kumar, are you here? Where are you? There he is, back there. Congratulations. If I'd only had you early on, it could have changed my life. This year, we anticipate some construction projects, 2 that I'd like to share with you. At the corner of Rolf Christopher Drive and Jim Gilligan Way, we'll be building a new administration and honors program facility. This is a gift that was specifically dedicated for that purpose. So if you know where that is, that's roughly where the baseball stadium kind of is, down the way from the baseball stadium, right about there. And then right across the street from it will be a new Center for Innovation and Commercialization. It's our intent to use those 2 buildings as gateways as you come to campus. The architectural feel will be different. It will be traditionally academic, and we're not going to go way out there, but it'll give a little different feel to the visual impact of the campus. The funds for the Innovation and Commercialization Center were made possible by the Federal Hurricane Relief Funds. Let me close with a few comments. Athletics, we're very excited about Cardinal Athletics. Cardinal football kicks off August 31st. Soccer and volleyball start the week before. You're going to see Nancy and me there cheering for the Cards on the course, track and field. We got plenty of practice wearing actually crimson and cream at OU. But if you don't look real close, they're going to look like Cardinal red and white. Nah, we'll get some bling stuff. Lamar's investing in the future. Comprehensive campaign will conclude this fall, and it's been a resounding success. There's a brick campaign that's still underway. It will enhance the quadrangle. It's a great opportunity to participate in supporting Lamar, and Nancy and I are already in on it. We'd encourage you to join up if you'd care to. Please contact our advancement team if you're interested in naming a brick. As I mentioned earlier, Provost Doblin and I will be meeting all of the academic departments to hear firsthand about the academic enterprise, but we're also going to be visiting with key staff and students as well. So this is an enterprise scope acquisition of data to get a sense of where you see the university going. But at the same time, we'll be soliciting your ideas about quality improvements on campus, and you'll actually see some requests for proposals from me for ideas you might have that we can fund to advance the quality of what we do here at Lamar. So when you get email from me, don't immediately hit delete. This might be one you want to read. To conclude, I'd like to make a comment about raises for this coming year. We, as you might imagine, coming on board when I did, I had to spend some time immersing myself in the data. We looked at the projected biannual revenues, and I was frankly thoughtful of what was going to be happening in terms of our student enrollment for this coming fall. But I'm pleased to announce that we're going to be able to award faculty and staff raises for this coming year. Salaries for those hired before June of 2013, sorry, new folks, that includes me, will receive an increase of 4% up to a maximum of $2,400. We're pleased to make this possible. I mean, obviously, no, it's a challenging time in higher ed, but I looked at your past record of raises and what I saw you all doing, and Cruz Melvin, you owe him a great debt of gratitude. He did a marvelous job in his interim capacity. And helping me work through this, and I give Cruz just a real great kudo for helping make this happen. So thank you, Cruz. This coming week is busy. We got classes starting next week. There are a lot of events going on. I hope you'll take advantage of the faculty blast-off tomorrow. I hope to see you then. My sincere and best wishes for a successful academic year, and go Big Red. But before we conclude, I do not play the clarinet. But we got some folks here that I think will get your heart beating. So with that, let's bring out the Cardinal cheerleaders and members of our marching band. That's not our marching band. These guys would not be marching, but thanks for our band for being here. Thank you all. Have a great semester.